The fool is the precursor to the saviour. What do you think about that? Because I think it's really profound. I heard it for the first time last night, listening to a Jordan Peterson podcast entitled Why You Should Risk Being a Fool. And he talks about this idea from Carl Jung about first the fool, then the saviour. So that's what I want to talk about in today's video, because I've been thinking about it last night and this morning, and it is so deep and profound, it's unbelievable, and I think I've only just scratched the surface with it. So if you want to hear more, then continue watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and subscribe to the Telegram channel as well, links in the description there. So the fool is the precursor to the saviour. So I'm about a third of the way through this podcast where Jordan Peterson, who is a huge influence on me, is discussing this idea. And I thought now would be a good time to, there's a big massive bumblebee buzzing around my head here. Now would be a good time to, before I finish listening to the podcast, to elucidate my thoughts on what it means, having just started to consider the idea. One of the first things I'll say is that the quote, "The problem with the world is that the fools are so sure of themselves and the wise men so full of doubts." I would build on that and say that the wise men realise that they are indeed fools. But it's in realising that they are fools that makes them wise. The real fools, the real idiots in this world, as the saying says, are those who have no idea at all of their ignorance. They're the fools. And what we have at the moment in this world, I would suggest, is a combination of three things. A select few pulling the strings. I don't go so much into that on my YouTube channel, but there's a lot of theories as to who they may be. You have quite a lot who are happy to, or content, literally to sell their soul to the devil in order to remain prominent, in order to be financed, in order to be famous. And you also have the absolute utter idiots, fools, who maybe they have a little inkling they want to stay relevant as well. They want to be on what they think is the right side of history, doing the bidding essentially of those select few who are orchestrating what's going on. Fools, they're all around us. I know them, you'll know them. They're the ones who never ask a question. They're the ones who never challenge their beliefs. They're the ones who will do whatever they're told to do, regardless. They're the ones with large egos and very tiny amounts of emotional intelligence, or no emotional intelligence. You may have heard about Stalin's useful idiots back in between the 20s and the 50s. The people in the West who would consciously undermine the UK's position, the US's position, try and destabilise Western societies, feed information to the Soviet powers. Now, you know, I could do a whole critique on the West itself, and I have done many, but these are the same types of people. Idiots because consumed by ideology, consumed by somebody else's idea, never examining what that ideology or idea is, or how they may be implementing it, and how it may be damaging them, those around them, and the world. They're the fools. The real fools. But to go back, the fool is the precursor to the saviour. Let's talk about the type of fool that this world needs. This is the fool that knows he or she is a fool. And I believe this is what Carl Jung's idea is about. First the fool, then the saviour. The fool is the precursor to the saviour. You have to realise you are highly fallible. You have to realise you are corruptible. You have to realise you hardly know anything of what there is to know. You have to realise you will make mistakes. You have to realise you will make an utter fool of yourself in the journey to becoming who you could be. You have to be willing to be a fool. You have to be willing to be ostracised. You have to be willing to be ridiculed. You have to be willing to have others look upon you with suspicion. You have to be willing to do that in order to develop, in order to improve yourself, in order to be of service to those around you and to the world, in order to solve the multitude, or to try to solve the multitude of horrendous problems that this world now faces. You must be a fool over a long period of time. So what about a saviour? First, the fool is the precursor to the saviour. This is incredibly important, especially right now, because there is no saviour. You do not have anybody in your life who is going to save you. No one. None of us do. There's no such thing. How this ends is not by a knight in shining armour with a cavalry behind him to destroy the opposition and bring about this better world. No, 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 no. That is naive, and anybody who thinks that, I would argue, is a fool. The saviour, therefore, can only be one person. Who's that person then? You. You have to be your own saviour. I have to be my own saviour. And if enough of us save ourselves, we save the world. And we must do that by being vulnerable, by speaking what we really think, no matter what the risks, by being willing to be hypocritical sometimes, by being willing to be completely authentic, and in doing so expose all of our flaws for the world to see, all of the inconsistencies in what we say, all of the things that we say that are complete rubbish. Go back, have a look at my videos and see the rubbish I've talked. So what? It's in an attempt to understand myself and my place in this world. Wow, and I tell you what, I've only just taken a first step. It's fine to be a fool. We don't know anything, but we must try to learn. And these fools in positions of power, don't expect them to be the solution to your problem. Why would they? They're incapable of it. Consumed by ignorance and narcissism, the worst possible combination. There's nobody in the media, in the public eye, in politics, whoever, no one is capable or has the ability to be the saviour, because none of them realise that they're a fool, and they're the worst possible of fools, possibly with one or two tiny exceptions who unfortunately trapped within the environment and the system are not going to be able to do anything anyway. No, no, no. It's you. It's me. It's all of us. Again, it comes down to it on an individual level who must be willing to be a fool, risk being a fool. That's how we save ourselves. How do we do it? Speaking truth. Saying what you think. It's not hard. It's really not once you get over the fear. Say what you think. I mean, I really want you to share this video with people who don't understand this. With people who do not understand or are unwilling to take that individual responsibility that each of us needs to take right now into bringing down tyranny. Bringing down a tyranny that not just threatens, but that will consume us all. If enough people aren't willing to be a fool, aren't willing to expose themselves, aren't willing to be vulnerable, aren't willing to tell people what they actually think, be the fool. Save yourself, save the world, speak truth. And you think about the fools who aren't really fools in popular culture. I was thinking before, comedy, you have fools in comedy. Laurel and Hardy, the original comedy duo. One was a fool who knew he was a fool. The other was a fool who didn't know he was a fool. Hence, who was the one that came up with the little grains of truth, the little insight into what life really was? Stan Laurel. Oliver Hardy didn't realise he was as much of a fool as Stan Laurel, making him a bigger fool. Baldrick in Blackadder, portrayed as the fool, yet every now and again came up with the most profound insights about life, the tragedy of life, along with the comedy. Trigger in Only Fools and Horses, again, portrayed as the fool. He wasn't really. The fools were Del and Rodney and Uncle Albert and Grandad. Trigger really wasn't the fool. Portrayed as the fool, but on a deep level, no. Again, perceptive when you least expected it. Look around in your life and see who the real fools are. Share this video with them. If they're too much of a fool, they won't realise what I'm saying. But share this video with anyone maybe who is on that journey from fool to saviour. Share this video with them. Let them know that what they're doing is God's work. What they're doing, allowing the world to judge them, allowing the world to ridicule them. But in the process, doing what? What choice do we have in this life? Especially now. Other than to move towards the light, speaking truth, being truth, and you have to be a fool to do it. Until enough of us have done it, and enough of us are far enough along on that journey that we realise and that we see the impact that we've had. We can't start off from a place of knowing what to do, of knowing what to say, of knowing who we are, of knowing what this weird and mysterious world is. We have to explore. Explore through trial and error. You explore through making mistakes. You explore through making a fool of yourself. And that's what we all need to do. Ourselves, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of excuses. This is no time for excuses. So start being a fool and become your own saviour. Speak to you soon.